couple of high profile court cases ended around the same time, which was weird to me considering how the incidents that were being discussed during the trial kind of happened at least like 2 years apart from one another. The first case was the Ricky Chow case. Now, those who are unaware, this goes back to May of 2023. A Columbia convenience store owner by the name of Ricky Chow was charged with murder in the shooting death of a 14-year-old boy. Now, at the time of the incident, according to the Richland County Sheriff's Department, Rick Chow, who owns the Shell gas station on Parkland Road in Columbia, chased Cyrus Carmack-Belton from his store around 8 p.m. on a Sunday night and shot him just down the road, a couple blocks down. Now, the Richland County Sheriff, Leon Lott, had said at the Memorial Day press conference that happened later on he stated, it's senseless. It doesn't make any sense. You have a family that's grieving. We have a community that's grieving over a 14-year-old boy who was shot. The owner suspected that Carmack-Belton was shoplifting inside the store. And the RCSD said that didn't happen. The RCSD reviewed the surveillance footage as part of the investigation. And essentially, this was around some water bottles. Apparently, if you view the footage, the boy picks up some water bottles. I don't know if he was checking the price. I don't know what exactly he was doing, but he picked up some water bottles and then set them back down. And according to the RCSD, they said that he took them out of the cooler and then he put them back. And as they said, regardless of even if the kid did actually fucking steal the bottles of water, that's not something you should shoot somebody over, and especially not a fucking 14-year-old. But yeah, apparently after the kid, picked up the bottles, put the bottles back, apparently he was accused of stealing. A verbal confrontation happened inside the store, which I'm assuming is them accusing the kid of stealing and the kid's, saying something back. And there's no indication that anything turned physical, but there was a verbal confrontation. And before I continue with the story, this reminds me being African American, born and raised in South Phoenix, and I was born and raised in South Phoenix in the 80s and the 90s. So this was before the South Side started to get gentrified. There's still some bad areas in South Phoenix nowadays, but they really tried to do everything they could to add shopping centers and a whole bunch of other stuff. But I say all that to say, going back to my younger years, I had quite a few run-ins with cops, with police. And I remember one time specifically, and actually I was probably, I'm assuming 18, and I was with my cousin, and we're chilling one day. I think he was driving, and we're just, fucking teenagers with a car, just, living a regular day in the life, if you will. And we had stopped by this Safeway that was on, we stopped by this Safeway shopping plaza, which was on 16th and Southern at the time. And my cousin needed another do-rag. And so we're talking, we're engaged in some conversation. We drive, and there's this shop that this Indian man owned that was right next to Safeway. And this is the spot that my cousin would go to often to be, to buy do-rags. And so me and him, we're talking, we drive to a spot, we get out the car, we're continuing our conversation, we walk into the store, my cousin knows exactly where the spot is, where the guy keeps the do-rags, we walk over there, we look, he said, shit, they out of them. And then we proceed to walk out and walk back to the car, and the guy that worked there ran out of the store and was like, what did you steal? What did you steal? And we're like, fuck is you talking about? He was like, you guys just came in the store and y'all stole something and left. And it was no, we're looking for do-rags. We know exactly where you keep them. You don't have any. So then we left. There ain't shit else there that we're attempting to buy. But again, being black in America and people being racist, they just assume that you did something. You're moving too quick, or you're moving too slow, or you're making eye contact, or you're not making eye contact. All the things that regular people do while they are regularly living life, if you do it in front of a white supremacist, it can be viewed as you being up to something. And furthermore, one of the things that I have had to explain to so many people is not only are all white supremacists are not white. You don't have to be white to be a white supremacist. You have this ideology ingrained in your head that whiteness is superior, and you listen to a lot of the racist ideology that these people hold, and you hold that in your heart. And unfortunately, this incident with this Asian man and this Asian family is a case of someone with white supremacist ideology. They see a 14-year-old kid, and he looks suspicious. Now, to continue with the story, Ricky Chow, who's 58, him and his son chased Carmack-Belton down the street. Apparently, the teenager fell, but then got back up and ran. Chow's son told his father that Carmack-Belton was armed. Ricky Chow's son said that this 14-year-old boy was armed. Deputies recovered a gun believed to belong to the victim near his body. That's what they claim. But there was no evidence that this alleged gun, Carmack, pointed at them or anything. And essentially, while this 14-year-old boy was running, he got shot in his back. One gunshot to the lower part of his back killed him. And yeah, Ricky Chow ends up getting arrested, and then a trial pursues from there. Now, this incident, as I said, happened May of 2023. And then fast forward to June of this year. So earlier this month, the verdict in the case came out, and Ricky Chow was found not guilty of the murder of this 14-year-old boy. Now, prosecutors argued that Chow unlawfully chased and shot the teen after a confrontation outside the store. And the defense argued that Chow acted in self-defense. And the case raised questions about the use of deadly force, charging decisions, what evidence jurors were allowed to hear, and whether South Carolina law adequately addresses situations like this one. So viewers continue to ask about evidence that the jury did not hear, including whether evidence of previous confrontations could have changed the way jurors evaluated the case. So apparently, Ricky Chow has done this multiple times of chasing people out of his store and allegedly pulling guns out on people. Apparently, this is a trigger-happy guy who has been doing this in this area for quite some time with no one looking into it and investigating it. Similar to the story I said earlier about Shut the Builder. It's as if they were being allowed to act a way in a certain neighborhood, which then unfortunately led to, in this case, a young black boy getting killed. Now, there was some controversy over who got selected. Like, there was no black people that were involved in the jury. I believe something like 600 people were part of the jury pool, and they asked a bunch of people a bunch of questions. And apparently the way that all the black people answered the questions led the judge or whoever, I don't know exactly who is the one that determines who is in the jury. I don't know the specific term or who does that, but excuse me. I say all that to say that they deemed all the black people to not be nonpartisan in this situation, and they didn't allow any black people to be part of this verdict. And then the crazy part about it was that the trial started, I had the date in front of me, but yeah, the incident happened, so the incident happened back in May of 2023. Ricky Chow's on trial for however long, and then the jury decides, hey, you know what? He didn't do anything. Let him go. Sparks outrage. And again, I have a hard time believing this was self-defense, considering that you have a 14-year-old boy in a store who gets accused of something, then proceeds to leave, and then they chase him out of the store, and then he's shot in the back. And so even if they were to find a gun on this kid, which I still don't even know if that part of the case was true, because I don't remember seeing any additional follow-up on if there was actually a gun in the kid's possession or whatnot. But regardless of the situation, you chased the person and shot them, and I don't see how that's self-defense. Like, if you're in a situation where something happens at a location that you're at, and then the person proceeds from that location, and then you proceed to chase after that person, and if things escalate from there, I kind of view you as the escalator. You're the one that charged after the person. But regardless, Ricky Chow was found innocent, and this, kind of raised the question with the Black community about being careful who you support, because, and this is not, me having an indictment on all Asians. That's not what the point of this is. But you have this Asian man who's in this community who has been racially profiling people for a while. And then so my question to the Black community is, why would you continue to spend your dollars there? We continue to allow people who are not like us to come into our community, and we continue to break bread with them when at a drop of a dime, they will shoot and fucking kill us without even thinking about it, because they don't care about us. They don't trust us. They are here to make a profit off of us. So that's the Ricky Chow situation. We'll see if more comes from that. I know there's been civil unrest in the area. I know the cops were protecting his property because, again, that's all the police are for, or to protect property, not necessarily people, if you will. But moving on from that case over to the Carmelo Anthony case. Now, those who are not aware of the background, Carmelo Anthony was a 17-year-old boy who got in an incident with 17-year-old Austin Metcalf, which ended in the death of Austin Metcalf. So April 7th, 2025, Austin Metcalf, who is a student at Memorial High School, runs into Carmelo Anthony, who was a student at Centennial High School, while they were at a school track meet in Frisco, Texas. Now, Anthony allegedly stabbed Metcalf after altercation, and Metcalf died of the injuries. Anthony was then arrested for the stabbing and charged with murder. He pled not guilty, asserting self-defense, and then he was found guilty and was sentenced to 35 years in prison. To dive deeper into the background of the whole situation, Austin Metcalf was a linebacker for the school's football team. He was an MVP. He participated in track and field. He had a twin brother, Hunter, who also played football. And Carmelo Anthony was born in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. He's the oldest of 4 children in his family, and the family later moved to Texas. Anthony was a student at Centennial High School, which was also in Frisco, where he was the captain of both track and field and football teams. He had 2 part-time jobs. At the time of the incident, he was on track to graduate the very next month. He had no prior criminal history, and these 2 boys did not know each other. Now, the incident, apparently, the stabbing occurred at this track meet. They're at Memorial High School, and this is around 10 a.m. on April 2nd. And the altercation started when the track and field championship event was delayed due to thunderstorms and heavy downpours. So due to the rain, every team except for Anthony's high school had set up a tent. So all the different schools had a tent, except Carmelo Anthony's school did not have a tent. One of Carmelo Anthony's teammates testified that he and other members had sought shelter from the rain at the nearby baseball dugout until a baseball coach told them to leave. So Carmelo Anthony, I don't know if the other kids with him are black, but, they're hanging out in the dugout to get away from the rain. Baseball coach says, hey, y'all got to get the fuck out of here. So then they leave and they head over. And apparently, Carmelo Anthony was called over to the Memorial High School tent by one of the students, Eddie Pereira. Pereira and Anthony had a friendly altercation for about 5 minutes. They, were chilling. And then apparently, Hunter Metcalf, who's Austin's twin brother, approached Anthony and asked him to leave the tent. Austin then confronted Anthony, and during the argument ensued, Anthony allegedly said, "Touch me and see what happens," while reaching his hand into his backpack. According to witnesses, Metcalf responded, "You don't have anything in that backpack, it's Frisco," before allegedly grabbing Anthony to move him. One witness quoted Metcalf as telling Anthony, "I'm not going to fight you at the track meet." Another witness in the Frisco police arrest report stated Austin and Anthony went back and forth, and then Austin stood up and pushed Anthony to get him out of the tent. In response, Anthony pulled out a black knife from the backpack and stabbed Metcalf once in the chest before running away. After being stabbed, Metcalf ran down the bleachers, grabbing his chest and telling those around him to get help. When police arrived, he was not conscious or breathing. The athletic trainers performed CPR, but Austin was pronounced dead minutes after arriving to the hospital. According to the arresting officer, when told to keep his hands in the air, Anthony said, "I was protecting myself." The affidavit states that he was emotional, crying hysterically after he was arrested. The officer then communicated to others they had the alleged suspect in custody, to which Anthony allegedly responded, "I'm not alleged, I did it," which also seems a little... And he was escorted to a police car, and Anthony reportedly said, "He put his hands on me. I told him not to." While he was sitting in the backseat of the police car, he asked of Metcalf, "Is he going to be okay?" And the officer said what he did, he considered it to be self-defense. Now, the video of this incident came out after the verdict, and I watched the whole thing. It was like, I don't know, 8 to 15 minute video, and the video was weird. So first off, it's super grainy, super far away, but yeah, you essentially, and they highlight the different people as they're there, and so you see Austin Metcalf and his people, you see them arrive, you see them go into their tent, and then you see Carmelo Anthony by himself, and then later he goes to the tent. And then again, like I said, super far away, super grainy, so you can't see high definition detail what exactly is happening. But you see some type of, I don't even want to call it commotion, because it's really hard to tell because how grainy the footage is, but you can see movement, if you will. Then from the movement, you see Carmelo kind of like backing up from back from the tent, and then he proceeds to like leave, and he's leaving quickly. He's not like running hysterically, but he is leaving from where they're at. And then he's walking, and like one kid kind of like runs over and says something to him, and then kind of comes back. And then Carmelo keeps walking, and then eventually the cops show up. And then this part is when it gets clearer, because now the footage is from the actual police officer's body, cam footage. And they come and they get Carmelo, and they proceed to handcuff him and start to walk him to their vehicle. And Carmelo is not angry. He's not like hyped up or anything like that. He comes off to me as a scared black 17-year-old. And he does say to the cop that he put his hands on me. I told him not to. And you could hear it in his voice, like I was telling him to leave me alone. I was telling him, "Don't touch me." And then they proceed to take him and put him into the car, and then they ask the kid his name, and he tells them the name, and then he spells it. A lot of us know Carmelo Anthony, the basketball player. Carmelo spelled with a C, but this kid made sure to spell his name with a K, so the officer knows exactly who he is. Like there's nothing violent or aggressive in any of Carmelo's nature as you watch the video. Now, some of the controversies surrounding the video. Now, one thing, and like, I swear I hear it too, but it might be the whole fucking, I don't know. There's a term for the effect. Remember back in the day, there was the fucking what was the Yanni video where it would like play audio and they would have these words, and while you read these words, you would hear the audio say this, but then they would put different words, and when you hear the audio, you would hear these other words, and it's like this trick on the brain. Maybe whatever you call that, maybe it's that trigger on the brain, but it sounds like at the end of the video before it cuts off that you hear someone in the back say something like, that nigger did it. Like, it sounds like somebody says the N-word in the background. But again, like I said, it could be my mind playing tricks on me. But you go back to the video footage of the cam footage, which is grainy and all that, and there's been quite a few people who have put together videos of how it looks odd. It looks like some things were chopped up, and overall that the video was digitally altered.
I figured out how they altered it when they digitally restored this video. In the original footage, I'm certain that you could see what was happening under the tent. You see, I noticed in the full video, there's an establishing shot where everything can be seen. And I zoomed in and I noticed the tent looked different than it does in a minute. Not only does this look clear as day to me, suddenly we get a cut in the video where it shows us the entrance of all the Metcalf twins. And when the shot goes back to the tent, you'll see that the tent looks slightly different. Here's a little known fact about me, but my dad had his own tent and awning business for like 30 years. I've been around tent and awnings my entire life, and this right here didn't make sense to me. Not only are the physics of how this tent is set up in this video are completely wrong, you will notice before they digitally enhanced it, they left a couple of frames of the original. Notice how there's like no yellow tent underneath the logo. Up here, we get quite a little bit of yellow space. So I went back and I compared the tent and I realized it was crumpled up the entire time of the video. You see, this part is supposed to go all the way and cover up all of these like bones, as I'm gonna call them. That's not really something that can be fixed after it's put up. Once the part underneath is expanded, then it's pulled tight. You have to make sure that all of this is covered beforehand. And now that you know that, if you look closely, you can see that right about here is where that should be. And again, there was no yellow in that crumpled logo. This part of the tent was all pulled back and then they digitally colored it in. Look, you can see the yellows are different. Look, you can even see that the colors are different. This black is from a tool that darkens something. Because you'll notice it's not the same color as the black right here. That's because they extended the canopy so that it covered up more. You have to think about it this way. See how we're seeing the logo almost straight on? And right here, you can see the middle stabilizing pole. Now, everything on the bleachers is going up slightly at an angle, meaning if this is where the other pole is supposed to be, it would not be straight back like this. It would be at an angle probably closer to here. Because for the side of that canopy to be completely up and down like that, it would mean that the pole that we can't see on the far side would have to be on a different bleacher from these poles. And you'll notice the trim is square shaped, it's box shaped. So none of that would be seen. It would maybe be a very thin line here, but it would go back this way. And now that I've discovered that it has 6 stabilizing poles, you'll see them right here in the middle and right here in the middle. And if you watch the video closely, you will see that here and here, there's going to be like a flap that happens, which had to have been somebody either being thrown, pushed, or hitting one of those stabilizing poles. See right there? And over there. So not only does that mean they digitally covered up what actually happened under this tent, but up here is actually digitally altered too, which now that I say that, I can actually see the coloring difference. Because if this canvas wasn't pulled down tight, then that means there would be slack in between these poles. Like, sorry, it's actually not really hard to see the parts that they added, because look at that color yellow, look at that color yellow. Like, what? No, right? Right? My guess is that the pole actually went about right here because that's where it seems like the steps and the benches connect. And there's a distinctly noticeable, like, the color is off here. Like, literally, as I'm making this video, I'm actually noticing how sloppy of an editing job this is. Look, right here, I can see it now. That is where the edge of the tent was. which makes sense from where I say that I think the pole most likely is. Like, all of this has been digitally altered. This definitely has been digitally altered. And so the video we should be asking for is the one that is not digitally altered. The original video.
Now, again, I don't know shit about shit, but to me, everything about the case struck me as self-defense. Everything from what I see, and again, I wasn't in the jury room. I didn't get to see every single piece. I didn't get to see how the prosecutors, presented it. I didn't see how the defense lawyers defended it. I didn't see none of that. But just from the information I have gathered, it seems like it was a self-defense situation. Now, what was interesting to me was how quickly the trial happened. So again, this incident happened on April 2nd of 2025. Then on June 1st, they began the jury selection, and the jurors had to fill out a questionnaire. The jury pool had 600 people. I think I said that earlier about the Ricky Chow case, but I was getting it mixed up with this one. But yeah, 600 people were interviewed, if you will, and there was concerns because there was 3 black female jurors that got released from the pool based off of the defense raised a Bastin challenge. Use the Bastin challenge, which is essentially the term Bastin challenge describes objection to opposing counsel's use of a preliminary challenge to exclude a juror from the jury pool based on criteria that the courts have found disqualifying, as race was the sole rationale for exclusion in Bastin. So basically, there was these 3 black female jurors that got dismissed, but then there was a white female juror who also answered the questionnaire the same exact way. So it was like, wait, why was she selected? But then the 3 women were struck down. I don't know, got weird. But the trial happened, and essentially, here we go. Trials, they go through the jury selection. June 3rd, it comes out that the jury had no black jurors. It's composed of 11 women, 7 men. And opening statements began on June 4th. Then fast forward to June 9th, 5 days later, and after 3 hours of deliberation, this 17-year-old kid who got found, who got charged under that of an adult, they gave him 35 years in prison. It took them 8 fucking days to be within the jury. It took them 3 hours to deliberate, and they gave this kid 35 years in prison. And again, like I said, so that was on June 9th that came out. And I thought it was very interesting because literally 4 days later, the Ricky Chow verdict came out, and that Ricky Chow situation happened 3 years ago. So Ricky Chow shoots a 14-year-old in his back. It takes 3 years for them to find him not guilty. Then Carmelo Anthony and Austin Metcalf get in a situation, and within 6 weeks, the trial starts. The trial only lasts 8 days, and within 3 hours, they find him guilty and give him 35 years in prison. That is telling to me that 5 days apart, you have Ricky Chow get away with murder under the guise of self-defense against this dangerous black kid. And then, like I said, for then 5 days later, a black kid who said that he was defending himself in self-defense, who was in a situation surrounded by a bunch of people he didn't know, that someone was physically putting their hands on him, and he was telling them to stop. And then he protected himself. He got found guilty within 3 hours. Now, from there, apparently there may be another trial. Some more stuff has came out. There's been some more questions. Some more evidence has come out. The other thing that fucking came out was after the verdict, Austin Metcalf's dad did this, I don't know I don't know if it's a live stream interview, I don't know what you want to call it, but he uses some racial dog whistles referring to Carmelo Anthony as the watermelon felon.
Life is not easy. God doesn't say that. God says there's going to be trials and tribulations. God says there's going to be people out there who will deceive you. People out there, I mean, if we want to go back Old Testament, eye for an eye, Sodom and Gomorrah, turn to stone, man lays with a man, you die. I mean, this is all your personal choices. It's none of my business. I stay in my lane. Just don't come in my lane with your. I respect everyone until they disrespect me. I've been disrespected by so many people, so many times while I've had to sit here and take it. I'm going to tell you right now, Charleston White, you think you're funny? We'll see who's laughing. Drew Anthony, you're a and a coward, and you raised one. Kayla, you drunk. What'd you do to that boy to make him stab somebody? My God, what kind of mother are you? Hey, Kevin Hayes, you fucking liar. Day after it happened, how many lies did you sit and type up on your keyboard, you big keyboard warrior? You a big tough man. You still live in Baton Rouge? Remember you said you'd come to Frisco, buddy? You're supposed to find me. I told you we could sit down and talk. That's all you do. Talk, Mr. Squeaky Clean. He's the only one in your family without a damn record. I guess that's something to brag about in your culture. You people hang your hat on the dumbest shit I've ever seen. Let me make one up. Y'all can let me make something racist up so y'all can go viral. I got a new name for Mello, okay? Because he was such this little boy y'all were trying to portray. How about watermelon felon? How's that one strike you? I hope he enjoyed his first night in that cell last night. Because he's going to have many nights to think about what the he did.
Which, yeah, you can't hear that and not think, that guy kind of seems racist. So if he's racist, it's not a stretch that maybe his kids are racist also. So yeah, hopefully we can revisit the trial and hopefully some justice is served. But I do think that it was intentional that those two verdicts came out so quick back to back. And then to kind of keep this weirdness of going, so you have Ricky Chow, June 5th is found innocent. Yeah, June 5th, he's found innocent. Then June 9th, Carmelo Anthony is found guilty. Both of them pled, self-defense in their situations. And then June 15th, you have a 1-year-old child that was shot and killed by a cop in a car after a reported shoplifting happened in Walmart in Mississippi. For those who have not heard the story, apparently in Santanova, Mississippi, 2 adults were accused of fleeing a Walmart after stealing some diapers, and the officers allegedly attempted to stop the vehicle, but the driver drove in the direction of the officers, almost striking one. And then the officer discharged their weapon as the vehicle fled the scene. The individuals in the vehicle went to the local hospital where the child was pronounced dead. And one of the adults also had critical injuries. We have not gotten further details at this time, but the police department and the Tate County Sheriff's Office, who were involved in the shooting incident, are saying that they're working with the Mississippi Bureau of Investigation and that they will look into the officer who discharged a weapon, how many times they fired the weapon, and what have you. And as we should not be surprised, the cop was put on administrative leave because, you know, when you shoot and kill someone, let's give you a paid vacation so you could decompress from all this stress so we can have time to get our stories together. And we will see what happens from this. We'll see if that cop gets found guilty or what have you. But like, again, this kind of goes back to the Ricky Chow situation. Carmack, even if he did steal 4 bottles of water, he did not deserve to get shot and killed. And even if these people stole some diapers, that car did not need to be shot in, and that Chow didn't need to get shot and killed. And they say that, you know, the car was going towards the officer, and it reminds me of Renee Good again. Renee Good was in that situation when all those protests were happening in Minnesota with ICE, and she was parked a certain way in the street, and then they were telling her to leave the scene, and she was attempting to leave the scene, but you could see like she was letting some other cars pass. And then the cop started to get, you know, more aggressive with her. And then a cop proceeded, as she started to try to drive away, a cop proceeded to get in the way of the car to then get bumped and then shoot into the car and kill the woman. And the people who, again, we live in different Americas and our algorithms are feeding us different stuff. The people on the right saw that footage, was like, oh, look, she was driving her car at the officer. She could have killed him. That's the reason why he had the right to shoot her in the face and fucking kill her. And we'll see if footage of this comes out, but that would be my question. Let's say that the car did proceed to, you know, flee the scene and almost hit the officer. I would be very curious of, are we talking about a officer was standing in a certain position and the car proceeded to take off and the person started to proceed to drive their car towards the officer for the officer to then start shooting, and then the person in the car to narrowly miss the officer or turn the wheel to get away from the officer? Or are we talking about a situation where a car proceeded to drive off and a cop proceeded to get in the way of the car to then turn that into a situation of, look, they're being aggressive towards me, let me shoot and kill someone? We shall see. We shall see what more comes of this. But I found it very interesting this month that we had those 3 incidences back to back to back over the course of a couple of weeks, all come, and then we have the collective outrage and the collective debates and arguments on social media about what is self-defense and what ain't self-defense, if people deserve to die over bottles of water and diapers. And I don't know. I bet that normalizing the murdering of black people under the guise of self-defense while giving murder charges to a black person who also engaged in self-defense, I don't know. I would imagine it's generating a shit ton of low vibrational energy like fear, anger, guilt, and grief. So again, I ask, why is this being normalized?
We are all victims of the algorithm.